champions.
E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles!
Swinging a miss, struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup. The Flyers win the Stanley Cup. For the lead. Yes! Iverson, wow, what a fake off Daniels as he broke his ankles and got all the way to the cup.
Good morning. We are back for, believe it or not, episode 60 of Drunk On Broad. Coming to you live from the Belly Up Sports Network. But we're here. There's too much going on to wait until the middle of next week. So we got Joe and Jason on today to just keep a wrap on all things Philly sports. But gentlemen, welcome.
What's up?
Morning, guys.
Well, listen, before we get too far in, we got our couple of sponsors. We got our Lots of Rain luxury watches. We got Team Clicks, the team themed eyeglass wear with some really cool interchangeable parts. We've got our new Shocked Energy, which we should be getting some sponsors or we should be getting some samples pretty soon that we're gonna be able to share out with some people. And then we have our new sponsor, Streaker Sports. They do some old defunct teams and leagues and logos. They've got some cool merchandise related to some movies. So all that stuff is all in our link tree, all in the bio. Gentlemen, now that we got that out of the way, Thursday night was an incredible night to be a sports fan. You think about everything that when you invest in the teams that we love, right? Thursday night is like the culmination. It doesn't get better, right? The Phillies they sweep the Rockies. I know it's the Rockies, but they pull the sweep off in the afternoon, right? Sixers come in, right? They hold it down. They boat race the Raptors, and then the Eagles come in at the end, right? They trade up, draft Jordan Davis. Then they make the monster move, right, to bring in A.J. Brown. We're flying high on cloud nine. Talk to me about Thursday. Talk to me about what happened for you guys on Thursday.
Thursday? I was in heaven. And then yesterday happened.
Well, Jay.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Jay, listen, we always preach about the power of positivity here.
I'm trying to
Jay.
No, Jay, don't do it.
Jay,
Don't do it.
Jay, take your rant, put it in a box, and save it for like 15 minutes from now.
Yeah, I know.
I'll give you the floor. Thursday was fucking awesome.
Thursday was probably
incredible.
Obviously the Philly sweep was big, regardless of the fact that it was the Rockies, the fact that the Phillies have been playing like total shit for the first month of the season, and they actually put together the most consistent, 4-game stretch of the year. Yeah, that means a lot. And then, of course, nothing to me meant more, obviously, because you got to remember the Sixers are in the playoffs, which is the most important part of a season. To me, trumps any regular season, even trumps a draft. And the Sixers are able to beat the Raptors and move on to the next round. And then, of course, most of us in Philly land, I'm a baseball guy, but at the end of the day, when it comes to sports in this town, everything pretty much usually seems to revolve around the Eagles. So anything Eagles related, especially when it comes to the draft, is big. And of course, we had the Eagles make a move up to make a pick. And during that time, I was actually on a live show, and I was a little annoyed because of the fact that we traded up, and there was a certain guy I wanted, and that was Jameson Williams. And of course, find out seconds later after the Eagles trade up that the Lions traded up ahead of us, and they take Jameson Williams. So we draft Jordan Davis. Now, I'm just giving you a live moment for Jason. At first, I was a little annoyed because I'm like, Jordan Davis, it's not really a good pick. We could have had Kyle Hamilton, who I really wanted, the safety. Or we could have had Jermaine Johnson, who to me was probably the third best defensive end. I can't use that word. It's called edge now. So Jermaine Johnson, the edge rusher, but we didn't get him. Anyway, needless to say, 15 minutes later, we hear the news broke on, AJ Brown, and it's like everything I was feeling upset about with Jordan Davis was like kapoof.
Yeah, it goes.
I was like, in heaven, because to me, AJ Brown is the prize of the guys that are left. Like, you want to talk about top tier wide receivers. You got obviously Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, Tyreek Hill. Two of those three obviously changed teams and signed massive, mega deals.
Right.
But to be able to get AJ Brown, to me, is like, let's face it, it's the best wide receiver the Eagles have had since Terrell Owens, and we had Terrell Owens for 1 year.
Yeah.
So
now
that's how big this is.
Yeah, we'll get into all that stuff. Joe, talk to me about your Thursday.
Pretty much the same thing to piggyback off of Jay. I was also enamored with Jameson Williams. You drafted Smith last year, which is all fine and great, but obviously the year before you take Rieger and he gives you nothing. I felt that that was a more pressing need just because of the depth of all the defensive talent that was on the board. But yeah, it was unfortunate to see the Lions jump up, a pick ahead of us and pluck him away from us. Now, Jonathan Davis is fantastic, and I love Jonathan Davis. I've done my research on Jonathan Davis, but you want that flashy offensive toy that you can have for however many years to come. But Davis is going to be a stud. They talk about his pass rushing skills, which might not be the greatest, but coming in here with the guys that they have on the team already, and the defensive coaching that they have, other than maybe Gannon, maybe the defensive line coach can really get him to step up his game in that aspect. But yeah, then they get it's great because, Jay calls me, a Twitter addict, which, yeah, I guess I could admit it. But seeing that come through on the timeline before I actually even see it up on the screen watching the draft. So
yeah, listen, that was one thing that I don't know. I can't put my finger on it if I like it or it annoys me. But like the stuff was happening on social media, like 5 minutes before it was happening on the TV. So like almost watching watching the draft on TV was kind of anticlimactic.
Delayed time delay.
Yeah, the guys that are actually live at the draft are tweeting that stuff out right away, and then I'm like, oh well, and like even last night, like the Embiid stuff, the Embiid news comes out right with the orbital fracture and the concussion from the thing that had the interaction with Siakam, 5 minutes left in the game. And then 2 minutes later, the Eagles, where you think they're in a position, at 51 to draft Nakobe Dean, and then they take a center. Like not knowing a whole lot about the center, right? Having done a little bit more research on it after the fact, like those two things hit within minutes of each other. And I was like, this just was like getting kicked in the nuts twice, like within like minutes of each other. And I'm like, like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Things end up playing out. Never thought that Nakobe Dean would last till 83, where they can pick him up in the third round. God, like I go back to that, like we can't have nice things. right? That high that we were on Thursday, seemed to all come crashing down in like within minutes of each other.
So true. With the Embiid news, we were blindsided, totally blindsided. And they're he's out and there's no timetable and this and that, and it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? I guess he's guaranteed to be out Monday, which is game 1. Game 2 is what, Wednesday, and game 3 is Saturday?
Friday, Monday. It's Monday.
It's Friday.
Wednesday, Friday.
Okay. What are we looking at? What can we realistically expect from the rest of these guys going against the number 1 seed? They're banged up too. Is Lowry going to play? Is Butler going to play?
Yeah, they had. I was listening. They in talking about like their practice yesterday. They had a couple of guys that sat out of practice. Now, right, everybody at this stage in the season everybody's banged up, right? So do I think that any of those guys sitting out in practice equates to them not playing in game 1? I don't think so. I think that they do end up playing in game 1, but the Jay and I were talking right before you jumped on, Joe. When Fultz runs into him a couple years ago and he gets the orbital fracture in the other eye, he spent, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks out just with that. So not knowing what the severity of that injury is, knowing that he can wear a mask, but the concussion keeps him out at least 5 days post injury, right? Yeah. Which to me, it puts him at Tuesday. So my thought is
maybe
the concussion, I don't know that know that he travels to Miami at all.
Well, yeah.
Maybe he makes it. To me, the first time that you have the chance to see him is probably Friday. If he's able to, if they're able to fit him for a mask, if they're able, which I'm sure they are, right? But if he's got the opportunity to be able to come back, I think the earliest that you see him is probably Friday.
Friday, yeah, man.
Yeah, and it's I really think that what you saw with Harden, the way Harden played in that game 6, gave me a lot of hope to say, like, if we can get that guy in that series in Miami, you got a shot. You got a real shot. They probably wouldn't have been the favorite, but they now, right? I was texting Big T Will. I was texting him, on Twitter last night. Like, he put out a question like, what's this series look like now? And I'm like, all right, well, if you have a hope and a prayer, you need, Houston Rockets, James Harden putting up, triple doubles to be even to just be in the conversation.
Right. Yeah, that's going to be the question. Can he flip that switch knowing that, he doesn't have the, should be the MVP.
Yeah.
For at least, like you said, it's looking like it's going to be at least the first 2 games. Can he rise to the occasion? They beat Miami in the regular season there toward the end without Embiid, but
True.
that's a small sample size. It's 1 game. Now it's the playoffs. It's helter skelter. It's crunch time. It's balls to the wall. So it's going to be interesting to see what we get, because, we don't really know what we're going to get from the Sixers and Harden. The first 5 games he was here, man, we thought we were going to get that every game.
You thought you were going to rip off, 16 out of 20 games and, ride into the playoffs on a high, right? And that kind of it waned a little bit, but I look at like it had the opportunity to be an insanely great series that probably would have gone 7. Now, you're going to be. It's going to be really difficult to be able to match the pace and space that the Heat can play with, right? You got guys like PJ Tucker, Tyler Hero. Those guys are going to pace and space the floor, right? But you don't have a guy that's going to play with Bam Adebayo, right? What you had in Andre Drummond, you're not getting in Paul Reed. You're not getting that. You're not going to get that center production. There's no attention on what would have been Embiid. So is there space for Tobias Harris? Is there space for Danny Green? Like the things that you saw them have in that Raptor series, you're not necessarily having here.
Right.
Yeah, see, so use the term we can't have nice things, and that's basically the epitome of this situation.
Welcome to Philadelphia. We can't have nice things.
I know that you said earlier the negative nanny in me, don't bring it out yet. The funny thing is, I'm actually going to go the opposite direction here than you guys. I actually am going to look at this as a challenge that we are absolutely capable of overcoming. I'm not saying that what happened in 2017 with the Eagles was, the norm, because let's face it, that was lightning in a bottle. But that team had a lot of talent, and it lost basically its MVP that season. And I am nowhere near, because I know how social media is. I'm not comparing Carson Wentz to Joel Embiid because he's not. But on that team, he was the team's MVP at that time.
Right.
He went down going into the playoffs. Obviously, it was before the playoffs. It's not the same situation. My point is that this team is a team. Sometimes you do have to face adversity. Can we win? It's going to be tough, but here's where I'm at. You got James Harden for exactly this reason. You needed another superstar player to come in here because without another superstar, you had basically Joel Embiid and nobody. But what we didn't realize, what a lot of Sixers fans didn't realize, I'm going to take credit for saying that I did, because you can go back and you can see that I was big on this guy since day one, and that's Tyrese Maxey. If Tyrese Maxey can play at his maximum capabilities in this series, and James Harden can play the way that he played in this last game, obviously he's going to have to put up more points. I think we can absolutely beat Miami. I think we face up. I'm not going to lie. I actually think it's a better matchup against Miami than we had against Toronto. Toronto had a lot of that physicality type thing. Miami, to me, is an older team. So knowing that, we need to use our strength. What is our strength? What does Tyrese Maxey do?
Jay, I'm not going to argue with you that the Sixers are probably, in terms of youth, they're probably on the higher side of that. But are those guys going to be able to match up with Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Udonis Haslem? Not to mention you're going to bring Markieff Morris off the bench. You're going to have Victor Oladipo come off the bench. You're going to have PJ Tucker come off the bench. They're just going to bring guys in waves. And you're going to have and then you look at the guys that the Sixers are bringing off the bench, and you're bringing George Niang, and you're bringing, whatever. I don't know why Furkan Korkmaz even got the floor the other night, but Shake Milton, you're bringing DeAndre Jordan. You're not bringing the same caliber of player. And I just don't know without Embiid. I don't even know what that starting five looks like. Is Paul Reed going to start? Is DeAndre Jordan going to start? I don't even know. Do you go a small lineup, and like you can't go small lineup because you can't. Who's going to cover? Bam and Abayo.
Right.
You can't go small lineup and ask Matisse Thybulle to bang with Bam and Abayo for 35 minutes. So does Paul Reed start, right? And then DeAndre Jordan is getting minutes now when he hasn't seen the court in 3 weeks. Jay, you know me. I love your optimism.
Listen, I'm not saying the Sixers are going to win the series. What I'm saying is they have no choice. Like we could sit here as fans and say, well, they have no shot, or we could sit there and say, you know what? If I've seen stranger things happen, and I guess what I'm getting at is we realistically still don't know if this is like going to be a super long-term thing or if Embiid's going to just be out, maybe say what game 1 and 2, and then he comes back game 3. Like at this point in time, we don't know what's going to happen. What I will say is that I think if this was against Milwaukee or the Celtics, I would be a lot more negative than I'm being. And I'm not, and maybe I'm undervaluing Miami at the number 1 seed. Maybe that's my personal bias, not really giving Miami the credit that they're due. I just, in my opinion, I think with or without Embiid, we match up better against Miami than we would against those kind of teams. And that's just my opinion. And I could be totally off base. And listen, Embiid,
I would actually argue
with
you,
probably the best player in the league. But
he is, and there is no replacing.
You're not going to replace that on any team. That would be like Milwaukee losing Giannis. You just don't replace
him. Yeah, there is a significant drop off to the next guy. Jay, I would actually argue with you that they might, in the situation that they're in, they might match up better with Boston than they do Miami. Yeah. Right? Boston is a team that's hot, and they're playing incredibly well. But in terms of size, Boston doesn't have a guy in the middle that's going to bang with a whole lot of people, right? They're more of like a space them out. Give Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, give those guys their space. I don't know, just like, but they're not playing this. No, go ahead.
Let's be real here.
Go ahead.
This is where James Harden needs to put his money where his mouth is. Like, you are king. I don't want, everyone wants to say, well, James Harden's not the same player. Okay, it's not like James Harden just fell off a cliff all of a sudden, and went from being like a superstar to nothing. James Harden came here with the mentality that he was okay being the second. He didn't want to be the man. Does that necessarily mean that he can't be? And he's being paid to be. So you know what? Here's my challenge. James Harden, I need you to be the James Harden that you can be and put your money where your mouth is. Score the damn points. Put up some points.
Joe, go ahead.
Shoot some threes.
Exactly. I mean, that's to feed off of that. He has, he might be slower, but I mean, he knows how to shoot the ball. He's always known how to shoot the ball. What was he told when he came here? What was the expectation? Did they want him to be a facilitator? Did they want him to be a scorer? Did they want him to do a little bit of both? This situation is going to be huge also for Doc. They're going to have to kind of reinvent themselves to make up for, an MVP player that's not going to be on the court. So you hope that Harden gets the memo. I mean, next year with him is a player option. I think if he shits the bed, does he stick around? Do they run him out of town? Does what happens with Doc? There's so many moving parts with things now with Embiid being injured that are on the table. But when it comes to Harden, he seems like he can flip that switch, like the step back three. I don't understand what his deal is with the wide open look, like somebody like a spot up three. It's like he's got to do the dribble and then step back. Just shoot the ball, dude. Just shoot the ball. Just go to the rack and score. You know how to do it. Just do it. That's all we want. That's all we want.
Like where like Tobias would come, like he is more of like a catch and shoot guy, right? You can hit him on a breakout where he'll just step into it and shoot it. It seems you're right, Joe. I think it seems like Harden wants to try to dribble the air out of the ball before he takes a shot. Yeah. So I think. Listen, the only shot that they have is exactly what we're talking about, which is Harden has to be the guy that he always was in order for them to have a shot. Like he's got to have to be the guy that's going to take over the series and carry the team. And Joe, I think your idea that like this is if there's a time for Doc to be able to say like, I want to be with this team and I don't want to be in LA or I don't want to go somewhere else. Right, because we all know he's got half a foot out the door to go to coach the Lakers, unless they pull Nick Nurse out of Canada.
Listen, not here.
Not here. No.
He won't get in the building.
No, God,
he won't get in the building.
But Nurse is a guy who's been talked about to go to LA too. But like, you're right. You have to completely reinvent how you play. If I'm them, right, I go watch Miami play zone defense, and I try to emulate that as much as I can. Because if there's anybody who play like Spoelstra is a guy who can really he's probably one of the best coaches in the NBA. Mm-hmm. And if I'm with them, right, I'm gonna play. I might play more zone, right. I might be able to go 3-2 and get guys out in space along the edge. Maybe force them to try to have to drive the ball, right? So put pressure on them on the perimeter, force them inside, maybe spots where they're not comfortable. But if you let those guys take space, right? Those guys on the Heat, they're gonna hit shot.
Kill you.
They're gonna kill you.
And that's a problem. That's an issue with the Sixers. They won the series, but if you go back and look at clips of that game and rewatch those games. Their rotations sometimes were terrible, and their closeouts were terrible. Matisse Thybulle, he's our best defender, but there's a lot of times, and he didn't even play because he couldn't play in Toronto, but he gets beat off the ball constantly, and he's trying to do the reach, around the back to poke the ball or block the ball from behind. Just keep the guy in front of you. If they make the shot, they make the shot.
Yeah, I think in this particular series, I think him not being able to play in Toronto kind of fucked with his head a little bit. I think that inconsistency of only being able to play at home, maybe there's a little mind.
He's skittish. You saw it, and
I think he feel like he might have let the team down a little bit, not being able to play there, and then there's that mental part.
Sure, absolutely, but also too, what did he do before this season? Did he work on his offensive game at all? He should be a guy doing layups. He should be a guy cutting to the basket. He should be a guy dunking the ball. He's got the length. He's got the athleticism. But when he gets near the basket, he just looks lost.
It's bad. Jay, what do you think?
No, I mean, you guys all bring up good points. I think you're right. If I have a concern, my biggest concern is the coaching disparity there between Spoelstra and Doc. I mean, because I think Doc sometimes shows that he's an elite coach, and other times he shows that I don't want to say that he doesn't know what he's doing, but his stubbornness trumps any of his ability to show that he's actually in that top tier of coaches. And that's where a lot of times I get frustrated. And you mentioned, the rotations. I think a lot of times that has to do with why the Sixers struggle. I mean, I remember, I don't know what game it was. It may have been game 4, but there was one of the games where the Sixers were down by like 11 and they had brought it back. And I believe they were down by 1 point. And then Doc took Harden and Embiid both off the court at the same time. And it was a puzzling move at that time when we had just gained all the ground back that we lost. And then he made that change. And just like that, we were down like 22. And I think it might have been game 4. It was earlier in the series, but it might have been, the first loss.
That's the part that I'm going to be paying attention to, right? The time when Harden's off the floor.
Well, that's what I'm at. But I think if you want to look at my, ways that we can win the series, we obviously need James Harden. We talked about that. But we also need the Tyrese Maxey of game 1, 2, and 6, not the Tyrese Maxey that played in games 3, 4, and 5.
Very true.
That Tyrese Maxey, was timid, wasn't getting to the basket, wasn't making his shots. I mean, if Tyrese Maxey could put up 38 points like he did in game 1, we got a legit shot.
Yeah. Yes. But here, and this is the thing that I thought about. I was talking with my father-in-law last night. Like, if you need Harden to be that ball-dominant scorer, does that now take away from the looks for Tobias Harris, for Tyrese Maxey, for Danny Green?
Yeah, but you're losing Embiid's. You're losing all Embiid. So somebody's going to get those.
Somebody's going to.
You're saying.
I guess they've played and designed this. You've seen how well this offense has looked all season long with Embiid, to now pull that rug out from under you and now have to figure, you got 4 days to figure out a plan B when, this would
Other
happen.
People are going to have to step up. The
You're
bench
right.
is going to have to step up.
Yeah, you're right.
In order to win, at this point, you're going to need everybody to say, you know what? We got to play as a team. We
can't be all hands.
accept
Absolutely
3 points from Tease.
Oh yeah.
You need Matisse Thybulle to start making some
easy
shots.
baskets.
You're going to put up 20 points? Probably not. But
you
can't accept a 2-point game.
Right.
Hey, Danny Green is great in the playoffs. He's shown it in multiple years and with multiple championship teams. Danny Green is going to have to be a bigger part of the team. Like, when you lose Embiid, it's obvious you're not replacing it.
Yeah,
but what you
absolutely.
can expect is that you could say, well, we're not going to expect mediocrity here. We have to find a convenient way to get the most out of every player. And that's Doc's job. Like, at the end of the day, that's a job. That's the job of the coach. Like, I manage a supermarket. If I lose like a key player, there's guys that we have that are amazing at their job. And it's the same thing. You can't replace them. Like somebody that throws 500 pieces in and out, you're not replacing that. But it's like, okay, your job as a manager is to figure out, well, how can I get 3 guys to do that job? You know what I'm saying? So, yes, is it going to be is it going to be a steep challenge? Absolutely. But can it happen? I mean, if we sit here and we just say, no, they're not going to win, that's the easy way out. I mean, I don't think they will win the series without Embiid, but they did beat Miami in a small sample size, 1 game without Embiid. Now it's regular season. But don't forget, Miami has some injuries of their own. So they're not 100% healthy. I don't think anybody at this point in any sport is completely healthy.
Yeah, the 2-man game, the 3-man game, it's going to be Harris, it's going to be Maxey, and it's going to be Harden, and they all have to be on every game. Every game. They can't take, they got to get the ball touches early. They got to get easy buckets early so they can get rolling. Because there's, these guys, they're up and down. Harden had 10 points the other night. The game 6 when they won, he had 10 points in the first quarter. He had 2 points in the second quarter. You just need consistency, and they have to be aggressive. If they're not aggressive, they're going to lose. They can't play timid. They can't play, oh, well, that guy will do it, and he'll pick up my slack. They've all got to be on the same page, and they have to be aggressive and try to find that spacing, because it's going to be hard. You miss a guy that's 7'2", 280, the floor setup's good. It's going to be different. It's going to be different.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a hell of an uphill battle.
Oh, truly. Gentlemen, anything else you want to talk Sixers before we talk some birds and some draft?
Maybe just quick. I mean, hindsight's 20/20, but you're up 29 points. Why is he still in the game with 4 minutes left?
I saw that. I saw someone put that out there today. Like, you're right. Like, it's such hindsight to be like, you know that you had that game in hand, 8 minutes left in the game. Like, why isn't Paul Reed, Charles Bassey, DeAndre Jordan,
hockey line change?
Right, at that point,
yeah.
I know it's a game 6, and I know you're trying to close it out, but at that point, it should have been the Blue Coats.
I haven't saw any news. Is Siakam going to get a fine, or was this like a matter of just?
They're saying that it was incidental contact.
I find that hard to believe. I saw the hit, and I don't know.
Let me just say this real quick.
Phil mentioned it on our show. Like yesterday, we had the morning show. You know, we do the trending every morning, and he mentioned it. Like, did you guys see that hit? And it was like vicious, and like obviously this was before the news. And then I hear the news, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me! Like,
as soon as the stuff with his thumb came out, it was them trying to play, and it's not. I won't say it was dirty, right? But it was more physically aggressive. And I think as soon as the Raptors saw that the officiating wasn't going to call every single thing, it just gave them more of an incentive to be able to say, all right, well, if you're going to let us do this, well, then we're going to try this, right? And then as soon as that game got out of hand, I think that they saw that opportunity to just do whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Didn't they originally call the foul on Embiid?
I believe so. I believe that.
Before they had to review it, he's hunched over holding his face. They originally called a block on Embiid, I believe.
Well, did you all see the audio clip of the
announcers?
The Raptors broadcast. Like,
they're all on this kick and trip of I don't understand it. Like, I mean, he's a world-class player. He's in the MVP voting. Like,
because
he's going to get calls. He's going to get calls. No matter how many games and how many times Nick Nurse wants to cry about it, it is what it is. They're sitting at home. We're moving on, and unfortunately, our best player is injured. But there's no need for any of that on any level in any sports. That's just classless. It's Bush League.
I listen. I saw everything I needed to see and hear from anybody who calls themselves Toronto fans, right? Listen, we have gotten a good reputation for being a fan base that holds their players accountable, right? But for every time that Embiid gets the ball, that you're on national TV, you want to chant "fuck Embiid," like that. Like when when he gets injured, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't
he said it? The guy said it. He deserved it,
right? Like something about it being karma, right?
Yeah,
and,
you got what you deserved. What does that mean?
Yeah, listen.
Wait, who said that?
The Toronto commentary.
Mm-hmm.
Said that now about the injury?
He said it when he was holding his face. On that play, he said that that he deserved it.
It just
During the broadcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you or I said that, we'd be banned from podcasting.
Oh my God, you could throw it up in there with the snowballs and Santa Claus and all that other dumb shit that just gets regurgitated.
That's so and nobody, people will always, as a Philly fan, you're gonna hear that for the rest of your life. Your kids are gonna hear about it. Your grandkids. It's gonna fucking go on forever and fucking ever. I'm so over it because nobody knows the story. Nobody knows why
Joe,
we
tell
gave.
the story.
Why
Joe, tell the story. Okay,
he was a drunk, belligerent asshole. He should have been fucking Santa Claus. We should have picked anybody else, but we picked that guy. You know what? We gave him the business because he gave us the business.
Right.
That's the story. But nobody wants all the details. They see what they see. They don't want a story.
They see what they want to see.
Exactly.
They see what fits into the narrative, right? But nobody's going to talk about the fact that when Durant gets injured, that they cheered him, right? Like there's a laundry list of other shit that no one wants to talk about until it happens here. And when it happens here, then they go right to that file.
Look at the Yankees game. What was that? Was that this week or last week? Throwing fucking beer cans at the player.
Right.
But that's probably our fault because it started in Philly. It didn't start in New York. Philly started all this bullshit.
I can't, man. It's too much. Listen, let's move on to some bigger and brighter news, right? We got the NFL draft happening. The Eagles, as they sit right now, right? They started off picking they had 15 and 18. The draft starts to play out the way that it does. You see a couple of guys that we know that they like. We heard a lot in the news that they love Jordan Davis. They loved Kyle Hamilton. They loved Jameson Williams. So I think they were sitting there and thinking like, all right, there's a guy. They know that there's a guy high on their draft board that they know they're going to be able to get to. And then they make the move up, right? I think if they had their druthers, it would have been to be able to get Jameson Williams.
Sure.
To me, I hate to say this, but to me, Detroit is where wide receivers go to die.
Yeah.
Like I loved him as a player, but like with his injury history, it would not surprise me if he falls off the table. Now, listen, I hope he's wrong.
Yeah.
He's a great athlete. He's a great kid. He got injured. It is what it is.
No, it's right. No, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. But like, I love Jordan Davis. I love what Jordan Davis brings.
Yep.
The man is what? 6'6",
345. So you might be able to not tell the difference if he stands next to Jordan Mailata.
You know what? And here's the way that I started looking at it, Joe, is that like I'm looking at him next to Fletcher Cox, next to Hargrave and Brandon Graham, right? And those four guys are you're not going to be able on first, even if he plays first and second down, you are not going to be able to block Jordan Davis with one guy. I saw like a baldy breakdown of the game where they played Alabama, and they literally triple teamed him.
Yep.
And he didn't move off the line. If he commands that amount of attention,
somebody's coming.
Two of those guys from Alabama got drafted already.
Right.
So now you look at that second level. Right now you're creating space for Kazir White. You're creating space for Hassan Reddick, for all those guys to be able to go make tackles.
Yep.
And even if he's a two-down guy, take him off the field
on passing.
Right? And now it's third and long.
Yep. Right. Now and also too, obviously they'll teach him, pass rush technique, whether he picks up on it or not. Just the fact that he is so big and he's going to command a double team whenever he's on the field,
right,
is going to make it that much easier for everybody else. Like you said, a guy like Reddick or a guy like Sweat, Graham, I think he came out and said this is probably going to be his last year, but I think we kind of already knew that. And the same thing with Fletcher. I mean, I think that it's a 1-year deal, and then they brought in Davis to groom Davis to take over his spot. You'll teach him the pass rush techniques, but that you already have a guy who can do both in Hargrave. So, them feeding off of each other, and then the move they made with Reddick, coming off the edge, it's definitely going to make this team better in the run, against the run and the pass. Now the only question is now, who the hell's your second corner?
Well, and this is where, like, I know that they had to move draft capital to be able to get where they had to get, but you got a guy who's going to be an impact player on day one, which your first round pick has to be. They take the center, which, to me says everything we need to know about Landon Dickerson staying at guard. Sam Allo is probably going to stay at he's probably going to slide into that other guard spot at some point. And Cam Jurgens is a guy who is not going to play this year, minus any kind of injury to Jason Kelsey. Nakobe Dean is the guy who lasts until 83. I know there was some stuff with some injury concerns, but I look at his film, right? Put all the other stuff aside, watch the tape.
Yep.
And this dude is just running all over the field. There was stuff in his highlight package last night where he's guarding DBs and gets a pick six. He's running from hash to hash to make a tackle. Like, he, to me, is just a guy who is just a flat out football player, a guy that I love.
Yeah, I mean, all he ever did down there was produce. He's not, a big guy, but you don't have to be at that position. You have to be able to cover and run and tackle, and he can do all of those things. And the good thing about that is, especially once you get Davis on the field and Dean on the field at the same time. I mean, they played together how many years in college? They feed off of each other.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. But Joe, to talk about their defensive backfield, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't know if they have a deal in the works for, like, Tyrann Mathieu.
I think they might. I've seen that. It's social media. It's flip a coin, but I think he's still in the mix. I would have even if they have no other plans at cornerback, I would have brought back Steven Nelson at $5 million a year.
You're right.
$5 million. That's a steal in my book. He wasn't that bad. He's better than Zach McPherson, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Zach came in when somebody went out and tweaked something. He came on the field, and then where did they throw the ball? Right his way, and he got torched. He's a rookie; he's going to make mistakes, but you can't go into this season with a realistic expectation that he is going to be the other starter. That's unfair. That's unfair to him, and that's unfair to the team.
Yeah. No. I mean, listen, I'm looking at, like, the guys that, at this point, you've only at this point in the draft, minus a handful of moves, and Adam, is talking about Andre Dillard not picking up the option. I think that's a no-brainer, right? And if the two guys to watch between, the end now and the end of the day today, if they can move Dillard or Rager for anything, I think, knowing that those were high picks, and they invested a lot of draft capital in those guys, if you can get anything for them without having to cut them, for me, because right now you're sitting at, you don't have a 4th round pick. You don't have a 6th. Yeah. You're picking at 140, 154, and then 237. So, like, those guys, I don't know how you can go into these 3 days and not at least invest some kind of capital in a corner, in a safety.
Yeah. What's the consensus on what you get for Dillard? Is it a fourth? Does
Joe,
anybody? What's his value?
Joe, if
Is
you
it-
can get, like, I don't know if them not picking up his option, they know teams are going to be able to get him on the cheap for nothing, maybe.
Yeah.
Like if the Eagles just decide to move on from him. I think he's a guy that, like, I don't even know if he's your swing tackle at this point.
Oof.
Like Driscoll is a
Yes.
guy who I'd rather trust as a swing tackle.
He's fallen down the board
so much.
Yeah, and that's just it's that boom or bust with Howie. It's the boom or bust. I mean, I like the Juergens pick. I like it a lot, but it's not a need right now.
Yeah, but you got to
It's not a need right now.
Joe, you got to remember, Howie Roseman doesn't care what Joe Bucci or Jason Schaefer.
Oh, I don't care about that either.
He values the trenches.
Yep.
He values the trenches. He's talked about it. If
Yeah.
you remember last week, if you watched the press conference, he discussed why they have certain philosophies on the way they draft. Jordan Davis, to me, like I said, I was down on the pick at first, but the more I've had time to think about it, I mean, this guy's massive. Like, if you want my comp, he kind of reminds me of Vita Vea, who was drafted a couple years ago from Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Size. And he's a guy that a lot of people, I remember when Vita Vea was drafted, they were saying, well, he can't get to the quarterback. To me, the defensive tackle, I don't always look at the numbers, the sacks or the hurries to specifically say whether they're doing a good job. And let's face it,
it's going to be.
it's
going to be a tape guy, right?
Yeah, but Jordan Davis is going to take all the pressure off of guys like Fletcher Cox, like who's older now. So you're going to see more of a rotation, which is fine because that keeps everybody fresh. If you look at the Eagles right now, their interior line is probably one of the top in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
absolutely.
Like,
Jay, you're not going to be able to see Jordan Davis's effect in the stat sheet.
Yeah,
he's a tape guy. You're going to have to turn on the tape and say, is he commanding double teams? Is he putting pressure on the quarterback? Is he able to occupy multiple players so that other guys can play in space?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about getting to the cornerbacks. Obviously that it's still a need, and I get that. But I also know that a lot of times, if you remember last year, we signed Steven Nelson in the second wave of free agency. There's going to be guys that are going to come available. I'm not concerned that they're not going to address the position. They're not going to go into the season not addressing it. Now, yes, we all would like it in the draft, but to me, sometimes with cornerback, I wouldn't mind dipping into the free agency there because guys are going to get cut. Like that happens every year that guys become available. I think we know that the Eagles target, they're targeting a safety. I think the Honey Badger is going to be an Eagle. I mean, that's
by tomorrow.
A guarantee.
By tomorrow.
You think so?
And when that happens,
I do think that there's some behind the scenes stuff.
As just going from like being, questioned to actually being a defense that has, an opportunity to take a big step forward. And I said that numerous times, like I wasn't big on Jonathan Gannon, but I wasn't ready to say, well, let's just get rid of the guy because, he's a rookie coach and he didn't have a lot of horses in the stead.
We needed better players. Yeah,
exactly. This defense,
but
besides Darius Slay, and don't forget too, and not that he's going to make a huge impact, but losing a guy like Brandon Graham, you can't quantify it on the stat sheets.
No, you're right.
He's a leader.
Yeah.
And not that he wasn't a leader when he's hurt, but when he comes back, you're talking about this defense looks totally different because now you signed Hassan Reddick, who, by the way, a lot of people haven't even been talking about. Like, after it happened, it was like everyone was happy, and then it's like almost forgotten.
You're going to have three.
Hassan Reddick was the best defensive edge rusher in free agency.
You'll have 3 edges on the field. You can run 3 edges on the field all the time. Reddick, Graham, Sweat. Because Reddick is going to be like the Joker. He's going to be like Micah Parsons is in Dallas. You can cut, he can rush up the middle. He can, the two-point stance coming off of either edge. So he's going to be interchangeable, and you're going to have to, account for that, having three guys coming at the quarterback.
And Joe, your point about them drafting the center, like I do like, after doing a little bit of research, I like that move.
Yeah.
And that move, making that move in the second round tells me that this is not about this year. That this is a saw value for future. We know that.
Well, and I think they really took Kelsey's words into consideration, because if you read what he said, he's like, I've been studying this guy pretty much since he's been there, and he mirrors his game after me, and he was basically like, I want this, without saying it, he should be my replacement.
Now listen, on the other side of the field, right? The move that I don't think anybody saw happening, right, is when they go to pick at 18, and now all of a sudden, right, the Tennessee Titans pop on the board. And Joe, we were doing the belly up draft show, and that happened while we were on the air, and I'm flipping the fuck out. Yeah. Like I'm going, what? Like
my dogs are barking. Yeah, I woke up my wife. All the dogs started barking. They were like, "What the fuck's going on?"
Right? My wife in the next room going, "What? Like I'm trying to go to sleep. What the hell's going on?" Meanwhile, I'm in here freaking out. I'm going, "What? Like what?" And then I'm looking at what you gave up. Right, you gave up.
There's 18, a steal.
Right? For a guy who's 24.
Yep.
Has already had 2,000-yard seasons.
Yep.
And now
in a crazy run heavy offense, he still is averaging almost 1,000 yards a season.
Can't
beat it.
You can't beat it. And at that point, they had already drafted. There were already 5 wide receivers picked. So if you wanted to pick a wide receiver, you're picking a guy who's going to be the 6th guy off the board, rather than get a guy that is 24, is productive, is
already shown you how good he is and how good he can be. Not a what if. And you know how the Eagles are at wide receivers with what if. Well, look, he's got crazy potential.
Now, listen, now you look at that offense, right? And now you look at, if I'm Sirianni, right, I have to, and I know I learned last year what Jalen Hurts can and can't do. I know that I can't expect him to throw the ball 55 yards down the field, right? He's not going to be the schoolyard quarterback, right, that takes 4 or 5 steps to throw the kickoff throw, right, to get it halfway down the field.
Yeah.
He's got to be a guy that gets the ball. He's got to get design plays to get these guys in space, right? And get the slant routes to AJ Brown on, a 15-yard in and let him run. Create space underneath where Dallas Goedert can get open in the flat, where Devontae Smith can run that deep slant, and you can throw the ball at 30 yards, not 45 yards.
Right. You're gonna have that. You're going to have all those tricks in your bag now, because you can script it out of one move. He makes everybody on that team better. Everybody on that team better. And it opens up the play action game. It's just the possibilities are endless with this team. It's really good. It's still going to come down to Hurts. Can he make those throws consistently?
Right.
That's it. I mean, you could put 8 Jerry Rices out there.
Right.
If he's throwing the ball over his head, it doesn't matter.
Right. If he can't get it from the hash to the sideline on a dime, to me, like you are going to give him every opportunity to be successful in this offense.
Exactly.
And if he isn't,
right.
Great.
But the team is set up. The team is set up whether it's Tim Couch at quarterback or Jalen Hurts at quarterback. You already have the talent. Do you have the talent at quarterback?
And that's going to be the most important position, right? If
They're-
you can't,
yeah,
if
this
you
is
can't get the talent
this
there,
is
then-
on Hurts because they're buddies. This is my buddy. AJ Brown. We train in the off season. We've been friends and this and that. Howie's like, here you go, kid. Here's your shot.
right.
And this is probably your last shot.
Yeah. Jay, what are your thoughts on AJ Brown and what he does for this offense?
What are my thoughts? I think the Tennessee Titans are idiots. That's I mean, AJ Brown actually called him out and said, like, it's not his fault. If they would have just offered me $20 million, I would have signed the deal.
Oh man,
Like that. I mean, that should tell you all you need to know. Like the guy.
they didn't.
I
they
mean, my
lowballed.
thoughts on AJ Brown are that, like I said, out of that list of AJ Brown, Deebo Samuel, DK
Think about all
Metcalf.
those guys that moved.
Yeah, but I believe I'm just from a pure standpoint of those three guys that are left, Deebo Samuel, DK, and AJ. I think AJ has the highest ceiling. I think Deebo last year, you know, the season that he had, a lot of people like he's like the hot, you know, guy. Like, oh, you know, it's Deebo Samuel. But AJ Brown quietly, since he's become a Tennessee Titan, has shown that he's just a naturally elite wide receiver, and he does everything well. He
Jay,
can
look at his
block,
production
he
in that
can
playoff game.
catch
against
slants.
Yeah.
Cincinnati.
Oh yeah.
He
Yep.
can go for the
He's
deep
the
pattern.
best player on the field.
That's
He's
what
shown-
you want.
He's shown an ability to, you know, play at a top level in a
Okay.
run first offense.
Mhm.
A lot of these guys can't say that. Like Devontae Adams was obviously, you know, with Aaron Rodgers. Like, so if anybody thinks that doesn't help his stats, they're nuts. Like Aaron Rodgers is probably one of the best quarterbacks of our generation, obviously. And I'm not discounting Devontae Adams, but what I'm getting at is you don't have to get a Devontae Adams level to get an elite wide receiver. I would say that AJ Brown is no less than the top 10th wide receiver in the league,
Absolutely.
with a ceiling of being in the top 5.
Right.
So that to me is enough to say that he's the best wide receiver that the Eagles have had, like I said,
Since
earlier,
T.O.
since
Yep.
Terrell Owens.
Yep.
Like, and he's only 24.
Right.
Yeah, you're gonna be able to grow with this guy.
24 years old.
Oh my God! What could you
He and
imagine?
Smith.
Could you imagine if Tennessee was a passing team? What his stats would be like?
The only listen, and I always try to be as transparent as possible on these shows. The only concern I will say with AJ Brown that comes with him is his health. He has not. He's only had one full season. He's missed, I believe, 3 games last year, and he missed 2 games the year prior. So he does have a little bit of an injury.
Right.
I'm not saying he's injury prone, but
Jay,
he's
I
had
mean,
it.
But he's a
He's
physical.
4
Yeah.
games though. Like
Yeah.
in 4 games in 3 seasons,
That's not bad.
we've
He's a
seen
physical-
guys that-
I'm just what I'm saying is
I know. I get
there's
it.
always a negative. You can't just focus on everything positive. I'm saying that is the negative.
No, but
So
he's a physical, in your face, catch the ball and double cover. You know, I showed Lucas, my son Lucas, you know, his highlights, and I hadn't even seen the whole highlight clip, and it's just like it's effortless. You know, catching the ball with one hand, 2 guys on him. You know, running backwards into the end zone. Like, you know, he's going to go up and make the tough catch. He's gonna but then he can break it. He's got the speed to run past guys. So
Yep.
he has the whole route tree. He's got the physicality and he has the mindset. And now he's going to be catching passes from one of his best friends. So there's no excuses.
And he's got
You
a
wanna
guy
use-
on the other side that's going to create space, right?
Yeah. Oh, then you have
Demand
Devontae Smith. So
demand that attention, right?
yeah,
You're gonna
exactly.
have-
So
you're gonna-
who do you double? Can you double?
can you, right?
Right.
And if you do,
Somebody's
now you-
running
now-
one-on-one
now you've got-
against a third corner, a linebacker, a safety. So
I can break down the description of AJ Brown into one word: stud.
Yeah,
That's it.
He's
Mic drop.
yeah,
Like,
I mean, he's
he's the
dynamic.
epitome
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
we finally have a wide receiver that we've been like clamoring for how long. That not that
Right.
Devonta Smith can't become a great wide
No.
receiver in this league,
Right.
but AJ Brown already is a great wide receiver.
Exactly.
Now we have and is,
Yeah.
and we have one that can be.
We had Tia. We had him, but he was here for a year and he was gone. Tia.
Gentlemen, give me a guy. Is there anybody that you're looking at as a target? I know they only have 2 picks right now. Just guys that maybe interest you on day 3 of the draft.
Yeah, I have one.
Go ahead.
Pierce, the running back.
Now, is it a thing that you think that they can invest draft capital in a guy who might be your 3rd option at that position?
Yeah, because I think that, in my opinion, Miles Sanders is still an injury risk.
Okay.
And I don't think in today's NFL it's a bad idea to have 3, even 4 great running backs. Look at the Buffalo Bills. They just draft. They have
True.
Singletary and Zach Moss, and they just invested another draft on a running back. Like, to me,
Okay.
that's the way of the NFL now. The Eagles don't have a bell cow back. They don't. So, in my opinion, you always want to be looking to the future. I know they only have 2 picks left, but if you use one of those on a running back, it's not the end of the world. They've already used 2 picks on guys that might not even play
True
short term anyway. I think their whole philosophy in this draft is get better now and later, because you got AJ Brown, that gets you better now. You got Jordan Davis, that gets you better now. Then you got the center who gets you better long term, because obviously he's not going to probably start, but you never know, because let's face it, every single year with the Eagles, there's always an injury on the offensive line. So you never can have enough capital there. And then obviously Nakobe Dean, like, the Eagles are saying he could play. Like, a lot of people were, saying there's a red flag of injury. According to Howie Roseman, he's going to be healthy. So
yeah, I listened to the interview that he had, the press interview that he had, where he's saying he's like, he'll be in there for the rookie mini camp. He's ready to go. There's nothing, he can't put a finger on why teams decided to pass on him. But I like that now he sounds like he's kind of got a chip on his shoulder, that he's got something to prove, which I love. Right. I love. Joe, who do you got today? Who's the guy you're watching today?
Obviously we need help in the secondary, safety, corner. I don't really know what you're going to get at this point, but competition makes the cream rise to the top. So I'm looking at Kobe Bryant from Cincinnati, corner.
That's. I think you're speaking to me telepathically. It's literally the guy I'm looking at right now.
At least he would push Zach. One of them's got to rise to the top. So, he played with Sauce. So hopefully he took maybe he took a little bit of Sauce. We'll take a little bit of Sauce with him to whatever team he goes to. But corner and safety, that would be the perfect scenario for me, because then you could take Bryant and then you sign Matthew.
And it starts to elevate, right? And when Kobe Bryant gets drafted, that'll be the 3rd DB from Cincinnati that'll get drafted this year too.
Yeah, that's a good sign. That's you have to have competition back there, because other than Zach McPherson, do we still have Jacquet?
Yeah, I'm a lot higher than you two on McPherson. I think McPherson can actually be a starting corner, and I think when they drafted him
this year, you think this year?
Not this year, maybe not. But can one of these guys do? That's what my point. My point is,
listen.
I think you go cornerback in free agency. I get the whole enamorment. It's almost like we have the same enamorment with cornerback that we do with wide receiver. And it's like, eventually you got to have a balance. You drafted Zach McPherson last year with the intention of him.
Jay, I'm gonna read you some of the guys, and you
eventually-
tell me if you're interested. Joe, are you interested in a 33-year-old Joe Hayden? A 30-year-old Kyle Fuller?
It's early.
Right? A
It's
31.
gonna be tough.
No, I'm just saying, like, these
No,
are some of the
No,
guys
I'm
that
not
are out there.
interested in them, but that's my point. Like, where you could make a trade. Like, I don't think if you're basing your decision on drafting a cornerback, there's no cornerback that you're going to draft now that's going to come in and start. You're not getting a Sauce Gardner. That would have been the pick if you wanted to go up and get Stingley. Yes, those guys are like, going to be elite. You're not in day 3. You're not getting anybody that's going to just come in right now and be like, oh my God, he's a stud. You're not.
He could still get a starting job. Kobe Bryant could come in and blow the team away, and then Zach blow
the team away. You guys could look like
right, but we don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know.
I would love for him to come into camp, blow me away,
right?
And me have to come in here and eat crow. I would love it. Listen, I'll buy it from your store. Like,
I guess the point I'm making is I understand where you guys are saying. I'm just countering it with the other counter argument to what you're saying. Like, hey, I'm all about drafting Kobe Bryant. Like, right. I'm just saying my point is I'm not looking at any move they make right now in the draft that's going to solidify a position of need to the point where I'm like, okay, we just got ourselves like, the next Darrelle Revis. It's not happening.
But if you do it through the draft, you're not putting out that money for a Hayden or a guy who's 30 plus years old, and then you can make that decision after this season, where you can sign a free agent or make a trade. You might be in a better situation if you like. Why are these guys still out there?
Well,
why are these guys still out there?
They obviously have a formula that they're going on, or else they would have drafted a cornerback.
Yeah.
Instead of taking a center or a linebacker. They would have went corner if that was what they were really looking at. I think, like I said, Howie has his own formula of how he looks at things. They don't value cornerback to the point that fans value cornerback.
True.
They just don't. And I guess in their minds, they're solidifying the trenches even more now with Jordan Davis, which is going to make it a whole hell of a lot easier on Darius Slay and whoever else the other cornerback is. Whether it's Zach McPherson, they obviously like McPherson to the point where, I'm not saying he's their starter, but in their mind, they drafted him last year. And I remember when they drafted him, a lot of people were like, man, Zach McPherson's a find, later in the draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
he obviously had a year of seasoning to, like I said, maybe I'm just like in love with Zach McPherson, and this is once again my bias coming out. I'm just
true. I mean,
I'm that guy that once I like a player, especially a young player,
we're in a better situation than the days of Maxwell and Bradley Fletcher, Nolan Carroll,
Nnamdi Asomugha, like all those guys, right?
Orlando Scandrick.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That's a whole nother show, Joe.
Jacket.
That's a whole nother show.
I know. Jacket.
Oh my God.
Jaquette.
Oh my God. Listen, just around like a guy that I'm looking at in the defensive backfield, right? Do you remember Carnell Lake?
Yes.
So his son, Quentin Lake, right, is a safety coming out of UCLA. Played a ton of time. Spent a lot of time on the field. Led them in a bunch of defensive categories. So if he's a guy that maybe has, I think last I saw he's got like a 5 through 7 round grade, like anywhere in that age range. So like he's a guy that if there's a DB that I like, right, he might be a guy that, again, I don't think he's going to come in and start day one, but I think he's good. He could be a guy that might push someone on the roster.
Marcus Epps.
Oh God, who's the kid they drafted from Clemson?
Kayvon Wallace.
Right. So like
Who
maybe
can't get on
he
the
pushes.
field.
Right.
He
Who can't
can't.
get on
He
the field.
can't.
Right. So maybe.
Oh, he's going to be this and he's going to be that. He can't.
Right.
He comes in when a guy to spell a guy or when there's an injury. Like that was a miss. That was another miss.
Oh my God, Harvest. I'm going to give you a guy that I think might fall in free agency. And tell me if you've heard this story. He's a 6'8", 385-pound tackle from Melbourne, Australia. Daniel Falele, who played at Minnesota, who's like not the best guy, right? Is super raw, but I think anytime you can, if there's a guy that can mold talent, I trust Jeff Stoutland to be able to do it.
Oh God, yeah.
So he's a guy that like 7th round free agency.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah.
That I would love. I would love to be able to see them do.
Him and Malata teaching.
Grew up
He's like, look,
right.
man, I was there.
Right.
When we drafted him, we were like, what? He doesn't even fucking play football.
My God.
Another Danny Watkins.
Do you remember those highlight tapes? When they were showing the rugby highlight tapes?
Oh my God.
Just running through people.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. It's like third and goal or 4th and goal. I'm like, dude, who's gonna want to try to tackle this guy? Hand him the ball. He knows, he's carried a rugby ball before. He can carry a goddamn football. Give him a chance.
It's so true.
I'm not getting who would get in the way of that? Honestly, who would try to tackle him?
It's so. Oh my God, I love it. Let's talk Phillies real quick before we head out. They sweep the Rockies, right? The bats kind of look really impressive throughout that entire series. They scored I think 37 runs, maybe 30. Don't quote me on that number, but like 30 something runs. Yeah. Right, in the course of that 4-game series. And then last night they get no hit by what?
Combined no hitter. Yeah.
Combined five guys on the Mets combined to throw a no hitter. Like the Jekyll and Hyde, I know it's early.
Yep.
And I'm trying to stay patient, but God damn, is it fucking frustrating.
Oh my God! Hey Jay, did you happen to hear from Aaron last night?
Yeah, right. I was gonna.
It's maddening. It's really hard to wrap your head around it with the amount of talent and the amount of guys that consistently hit the ball year after year to go into a game. And it wasn't against DeGrom. It wasn't against Scherzer. McGill's a good pitcher, but is he really that good? It's they're either on or they're off, and it's this team so far is the epitome of inconsistency.
And Jay, only because you've debated the Aaron Nola train until it's beaten till it's dead. But think about like his last. How good has he looked in the last couple starts? Mm-hmm. Right, he pitches Sunday night against the Brewers, and then pitches last night, and he's looked really good in both of those games and gotten no run support at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think Aaron Nola. Like, if you look at his track record, his seasons go like this: up, down, up. Down, up. That's the trend, and I predicted that he would have a bounce back year this year as far as ERA and overall pitching. But you're right. Like, I think if you look at this Phillies team, the most disappointing thing to me is the inconsistency. But we've been using that word for a long time around here with this Phillies team. It's not just something new to this year. And I hate to say it, but it starts at the top. Mm-hmm. And I think Joe Girardi I just don't think Joe Girardi's that good of a manager. I think he's very overrated. And I think it just shows in the way that this team plays. They take basically the attitude and the aura of the manager, and it's basically transferred over to the team. And I mean, they just don't play with any kind of energy. You're not seeing the same, I see Bryce Harper doing it still every night on a daily basis, but who's picking up the slack? Who's following lead? It just doesn't seem like any of these guys have that swagger to the point where, they're going to like get in somebody's face in the clubhouse and, start kind of policing it themselves, because obviously Joe Girardi is not doing a very good job getting this team up and ready to play on a daily basis.
Prime example. Yeah. The prime example was that fucking terrible game with the umpire, which I wanted to put my hand through the TV. The guy, and then after the game, they said that he missed 23% of the strikes, which is of all the strikes that were called, he got 1 out of every 4 wrong. And for your player to have a meltdown like that late in the game, where's your manager? And he comes like, walking out like with his tail between his legs, not coming out like Schwarber. Which he should have come out. He should have come out like Schwarber did,
right,
for his team.
Right.
He shouldn't have felt like obligated to come out. He should have been doing that rather than his player. It shouldn't. Right. And that was a 9th inning. What about the rest of the game? That game was terrible for both. Both sides had terrible calls. But for the manager to wait until the 9th inning to say, "Hey, what the fuck are you doing, dude?" It's not. It seemed like he was kind of like he wasn't locked in. He doesn't seem as connected as he should be. He doesn't have the pulse of the team right now. And I don't know if is that going to change, or is that how he is? Because
I, and anybody could have managed those Yankees teams, right? And I think
the all-star.
He rode the success of being
a figure.
Able to
He's a figure. He was a figure on that team. A figure.
So, do I think long-term Girardi is he? I don't think so. I don't think so. But I think in order for them to continue to be successful this year, he's got to find.
He's got to be better. He's got to be a lot better
to be more consistent.
Right. Well, does he want to be, or like you said, does he have one? Is he? Is this it? Like, is he kind of just going through the motions? I mean, I don't know how long his deal is, but he hasn't shown me enough to get this team where it needs to be.
Right.
And look at the team that we have. Yeah, they need to hit the ball, but is he capable of getting the team to that point? And
True.
How long do you wait?
Yeah, I don't listen.
It's April, but how long in the season? If we're 500 in June or July,
yeah, no,
something's got to give. Something's got to give.
Listen, all that to be discussed on future episodes, right? I'm sure there will not be a lack of content for us to talk about. But anything else you want to talk about, gentlemen, before we pop out of here?
Tyrann Mathieu, what's the percentages, guys, that he comes to Philly?
I think
honestly.
90.
Honestly, to me, it's like 70-30. I think if he's not back in Kansas City, he's here.
Well, there was a report last night that there's already a deal in place. So
yeah,
you believe?
Where did you see that, Jay? Where did you see that?
It was on no, it was a notification. It wasn't Twitter.
Wow. Oh no.
It was a notification, like
they had something on the table. Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's why I texted you.
Is New Orleans still in the mix though too?
No, remember I texted you
that he's out of New Orleans.
I think New Orleans is like the 3rd best team in that division.
The report said that many around the league believe a deal.
They had deals on the table.
Right. Eagles and Tyrann Mathieu.
I thought he was I think I don't know. Is it a 2-team race or is it a 3-team race? Is it between the Chiefs and the Eagles, or are the Saints still technically in the mix? Do we really know?
If I'm him, I think there's too many question marks in New Orleans.
Sure, it's either here or Kansas City.
Is where I really think that's it.
Yeah.
So, well, gentlemen, with that, we're gonna head out. Go over to our Twitter bio, check out the link tree with all of our sponsors, all the deals that you can get with our great sponsors at La Terrain, Shocked, Streaker Sports, and Team Clicks. We'll see you later on in the week, probably Tuesday or Wednesday, probably Tuesday. Who knows? Keep your notifications on. With that, go Philly, go Sixers.